Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for the first episode of the year, the Modern Enterprise Architecture Meetup that brought to you by FromHereOn. Today's topic is solving the Enterprise AI Roadmap 2025. So good afternoon for those of you in Australia and New Zealand, and good morning if you're awake in the UK. Please introduce yourselves in the comments. Let us know where you're watching us from today. I'm Jana Martins. I'm talent the community lead at FromHereOn, and I'll be your host today. We all know the rapid evolution of AI has created both opportunities and uncertainty, raising important questions about the strategy and execution. So today we're going to explore how should we approach building an enterprise AI roadmap in an environment of constant change? What does preparation look like when the only certainty is uncertainty? And most importantly, where do we even begin? So please join our discussion with your questions and comments, or at least say hi in the comments, because if you're not saying hi, we don't know that you're here, and that's not good. So we are live today on YouTube channel and our LinkedIn page too. So it doesn't matter where you're watching us, make sure to introduce yourself and say hi. So we're running these discussions monthly, every first day of the month. So, and our purpose to create a space for architectural thinkers to connect and share information. So we're here to build an informal community where members can enjoy exploring diverse ideas. And of course, we're planning to run more face-to-face events this year. So make sure to stay tuned. Anyway, without any further delay, I would like our today's speakers to introduce themselves. We have quite a few people joining. Jatin is here, James here, Michael's here, Scott's here, Azam's here. Thank you guys for saying hi. And I'll pass it on to Brian to introduce himself, please.
Hi guys, so I'm Brian Lowe. I'm the Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer here at FromHereOn. And obviously the topic's quite central to what I'm interested in and what I'm doing. Hoping to have a good discussion today and give you guys some useful information about how you can start considering your roadmap for AI.
Thank you.
Hi guys. My name is Jerome Thévenot. I'm architecture practice lead at FromHereOn, and my job is to help my customer run the best architecture they can to deliver the best outcome for their business. And yeah, I'm super happy to be there. David?
Hi everybody, David White. I'm the Executive Director for Strategy and Architecture at FromHereOn. So I've been, my job to make sure that everybody gets the roadmaps that they want, that we're delivering we're delivering the modern architecture that we're known for, and integrating that into AI and digital practice.
Thank you for the intros. I thought I'll start out today's discussion with a question to the audience as well. So, guys, whoever's watching us, just curious, what's holding you back your AI implementation at the moment? We did run a quick poll on our last week on our LinkedIn and put a few options there. And obviously, you can see the people who vote. But I would like to ask you, if you're watching, what's the main concerns you see across the industry? And while you're commenting, I would like obviously to ask the same question to our panelists. What are the biggest concerns that you hear from our clients at the moment? What's happening in the industry? And Brian, we'll start with you, please.
Sure. Thanks, Jana. Look, I think the main thing that I'm seeing out there in the world is a bit of a shift from where we were, let's say, 9 months ago, somewhere in there, 12 months ago. At that point, we were still getting a lot of people asking this AI thing. Is it real? Where are the risks? What do I need to know? What do I tell my board? Those kinds of things. What does the strategy look like? How do I incorporate it into my existing strategy? That's moved on a bit now, and I'm seeing a lot more like, we've been playing with these shiny toys now for 6 months, 9 months, whatever it is. Where's the value? What business problem are these things going to solve? Where's the return on investment? How do I justify the costs, etc.? So a bit of a shift from those key questions, and I think that it really indicates a little bit more of an educated audience now. Everyone's coming up to speed, but the discipline's there. We've got to come back to that business value question. That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure yet about the education, Brian. I do think that there's still a lot of people to educate. We're doing a lot of future state analysis at the moment, and there was a time where we heard a lot of business trying to automate their way out of their problems, and now we're seeing business that try to AI their way out of the problems. It happens to me very recently. I've got an executive coming to me and say, well, my CEO really thinks we need to have AI to solve all the problem by next year. How can we do something about that? I'm like, well, let's have a look and try to do a roadmap to actually help with that. That's the way to start. And the roadmap not necessarily about AI itself, but how to get there most of the time. David, you're on mute.
I'm on mute. Oh, there you go. Yeah, I tell you what's been occurring for me in this space is we had the bright shiny thing syndrome much more in the last 12 months. Now it's really focusing, as I'm seeing it, on two things. One is around using the new AI features and platforms. Like, how do we do that? How do we turn these things on in a safe and measured way to make sure the pricing doesn't go crazy? And the other thing is so there's obviously need some roadmap and planning around that. And the other thing is people, realizing again around their data, how do we get our data under control, and what's, the light on the unserved chief data officer and the data team who have been intended to operate in that dark back room for many, many years, now have the bright spotlight on them. And so the question is, how do they get enabled, to service the new demands around AI?
Brian, you're on mute.
And I guess how we should approach, what we.
The question of AI and whether it's real and adoption costs, all of those kinds of
Sorry,
things.
guys, I think my internet is a bit slow, and my question.
That's okay. We'll play it by ear. Look, we've had some conversations about this, of course, and I have a slightly heretical view, so I might just keep my powder dry until the other guys have weighed in. I don't want to start with the controversy. So maybe, David, you could talk a little bit about roadmaps for AI.
Yeah, for sure. So look, it's strategic planning has always been about, we need to know what we're doing, how do we fulfill the strategy, what are the work packages, what does the roadmap look like? That's an inevitable and ongoing question. So what I'm seeing is we've been working from years around digital roadmaps with government agencies and other clients. And up until recently, it's really just been about how do we turn on these platform features into our enterprise digital roadmap. So it's really been about the digital roadmap. What with this new, expanded interest and opportunity that the AI has provided, this question around, what is our AI enterprise roadmap has come up, and it's like, do we need another roadmap? And this is what people are, what we're helping people work out with. And in fact, to some extent, yes, we do need an enterprise AI roadmap. We can't just have 1,000, flowers blooming in a sense, like and that turning into, or if anybody's ever tried to recover from overuse of SharePoint, you kind of get the sense of maybe there's something similar might happen in the future if we are, let loose on AI, but also the truthiness around that. So this, to some extent, we need that roadmap. But the real question is, how does it integrate with the rest of the stuff that we're doing? With the other priorities, with the other digital priorities, with the other non-digital priorities in the business, how do all of these things stack up? And how do we manage that roadmap with the speed of change that's happening? How do you make that roadmap dynamic? And that's something that we're working with a number of clients on. How do you plug that dynamic road mapping and strategic planning process into, for example, quarterly PI planning, which we're doing with clients, into roadmap tooling like that's available through Atlassian and so on. So this very wide and deep question around enterprise AI roadmaps. There's all these different facets that at least we're dealing with right now.
I think there's an interesting conundrum here, because what I think that's very different between the normal type of roadmap or exercise and AI is there's still a lot of emotion around it. And I'm not sure if you remember that one, David, but we had this customer that was asking us for, it's a very large one, that was asking us for an AI roadmap to present to their board, because the board was querying, or at least some members were querying the executive around, well, okay, what you're doing about that. And so we did some really good work into sensitizing, they were doing a lot of things that would get them on the way and what they could done further, how they can use it, use case, and thinking in that space. And actually, we did great synthesis. We were really happy with that. It was presented to the board, and the customer came back and say, okay, how did it go? Say, the slide was very well, but we couldn't discuss it. So what happens? Well, say nobody at the board could agree if we should even do AI. Some of them are in a view that it's going to end the world. The other things that is going to kill our business if we don't do it now. And the conversation stopped very quickly, and we couldn't get to anywhere. And I was like, okay, that's really interesting and fascinating. And I thought that was really interesting that it was at board level, like educated people. But I'm still believing that whatever we talk about AI, that conversation ripple through all the level across the organization from the top to bottom. And I work a lot with government. There's another layer to that has to be, that human factors got to be considered into whatever we're doing there.
Yeah, true.
It's a really good point there, Jerome. There is a lot of hyperbole out there, a lot of hysteria, I think. You've got people like Elon Musk saying we're summoning the demon on the one hand, but on the other hand, embedding AI into his Teslas and then commissioning the production of a whole pile of robots that apparently are going to be cleaning our houses for us and doing the shopping real soon now. So, you've got to wonder how much of that is real. But I guess it's part of our job is to cut through that hyperbole and try and make people understand exactly what AI really is in its current form. And then, where the key business applications are.
So tell us, Brian, I'm on tenterhooks.
Regarding my heresy, well,
yes.
That might be premature, but look, okay. So let me frame this a little bit just by saying, let's think about what a roadmap is. So a roadmap, it's a map. It's a path up the mountain. How are we going to get where we are going? What are the steps that we need to take to get where we're going to get? And we've all done hundreds of roadmaps. They're normally preceded by a strategy of some kind, which defines what you're trying to achieve, the why of it, if you will, and then the roadmap is sort of the what and the how. The problem with that is that that's a process that takes a certain amount of time. And I've never seen a roadmap, formulated and then executed, or starting to execute at least inside, 6 months. Let's pick a number, and 6 months in the current landscape is an eternity. The example that I've called out before is DeepSeek. I mean, imagine you're proposing a large project to invest in training infrastructure. So you work for a large bank, NAB, Westpac, ANZ, pick one, and you're commissioning. You want to commission a $2 million program to buy a bunch of hardware to train models that'll give you some sort of market differentiation. And you're on the crest of that being approved and spent, and suddenly DeepSeek comes out, and the cost of that training drops to 1% of what it was. So your stakeholders are then asking for some explanation. Why did you just ask us for $2 million? And now we're finding out, it's going to cost us $20,000. Or, so these are the kinds of things that are happening all of the time as new AI technology comes into play and paradigms shift, etc. We're now moving into agentic AI, which is going to have its own challenges, of course. New model types, etc. We've got the R1 release, which will supposedly do some reasoning, basic reasoning, and other things. So it's just moving too fast for the traditional approaches, in my view. So a roadmap is not going to cut the mustard. What I'm proposing is something a bit more radical, a bit more agile, and that is that you set the foundations to enable you to incorporate new technologies and new shifts in AI very quickly into the organization. And I can lay out a bunch of mechanisms there, but that's really the long and short of it, is that a roadmap, throw them out the window for AI. What you need to do is set your direction and start sailing, live off the land, as it were, if I'm not mixing my metaphors here, sea and land, and adapt very quickly to what's coming up and seize the opportunities. That's what I'm advocating.
Can I say yes and?
Yes, and of course. Let's do that. Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm seeing, and a lot of that is, you're like, when you start from that crazy thinking domain about, it's going to change and you don't know. And I don't disagree. You've got to start running. Now, the problem you got is the expectation management. And sometimes the solution is so far down the track that it's very, very difficult to get to results. So I had a couple of customers trying to do that. So, we've lined up a vendor, we're ready to do it, we roll. And say, well, what's your expectations? Our expectation is we're gonna remove all the business. It's just done, So I just can't comment because it's public sector customer. So it was really bold. So not possible. You can't do that. And I say, yeah, you can. We're just AI, because their perception is AI magic.
Just
so
AI.
So what we turned that is we created a roadmap, not to explain that it's magic and it's never going to work, but to say, well, okay, if you really think it's magic, let's unpack the magic for you. And we broke it down into not one, but I think it was 11 different AI collaborating together. And we explained the data that they needed to collect to make those AI real. And then that's only that, we've got a vendor lineup turned into, we've got 10 years roadmap. Now, the interesting thing is, after a year, the vendor is off now because they realize it's not working, and now they're on the roadmap. And the roadmap start by, let's collect the data we need to build those AI. And I think it's reasonable. So you see, I think roadmaps still have a use.
Yeah. I think so too. It's kind of like there's a roadmap that drives action and activity. It's kind of like a project plan. There's roadmaps that drive adoption, support and sponsorship. And so I think there's value in there. But I think, to Brian, if I were I'm going to interpret Brian's heresy in words that I can speak. What I'm hearing is it's about building capability. Like the capability to fulfill on the AI pipeline, whatever the AI pipeline might be, to understand what needs to go into the pipeline and come out of it. How do you build stuff? So it's about building that capability so that you can do that stuff. And for me, the roadmap in terms of communication device is also about understanding the readiness, the horizons of readiness to do different types of things. Can we just release stuff on platforms? And this is how we're seeing it with the different clients that we're engaging with about, well, how do you? I know, Brian, you can speak to it better than I can in terms of there's this capability building approach, and then integrating that and educating the kind of more what we need to plan people into that.
Yeah. Look, I think let me nuance it a little bit by saying I'm not against roadmaps. I think they still have their role, and roadmaps for business change in particular are absolutely core. Like, you need to be able to have a plan, manage that plan, etc. Show that plan. So in that respect, yes, of course, absolutely. But a specific AI roadmap is the thing that I'm challenging here, where you're looking at those very specific solutions that are moving so very rapidly. The analogy that I think of, there used to be this great analogy a while ago, and I guess it's lost a bit of traction now, but if you look at the third world, let's say some of the African countries and their adoption of telecommunications, that came very late after the development of Wi-Fi communications in more developed countries. And they got to short circuit things. They didn't have to build all of this massive telecommunications infrastructure underground and spend billions of dollars. They just put in towers and Wi-Fi, and they were off to the races, right? So they got to shortcut by simply coming in late, if you like, waiting a little bit. And I think there's a lot of that happening in AI. The cycle time, though, isn't 30 years. It's 5 months or something like that. And so what I'm seeing is organizations that are investing, let's say you're investing in a chatbot solution, let's say something like that. And we've seen some recent clients recently do that, and only to be gazumped by a commoditized offering that's put onto the market inside 3 or 4 months after their investment is made, that is better, faster, easy to use, etc. It's come to market very, very quickly. And that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. When you try and do a roadmap, you are trying to do it based on your assumptions about what the terrain looks like, to use the analogy. But the problem is it's shifting so very quickly.
And like, I would completely agree with that, Brian. And I think the capability approach is the way to go for sure. It's always the most challenging one, because then you're going to get into what skill do I need, what I can really do. But I think there are things that are stable. Your data is stable, your outcomes are stable. And so capturing those and organizing your way to know how your AI system works, because for better or worse, AI, they will resolve stuff in a way we don't necessarily understand deeply. So we need to be able to test the outcome to see they're actually workable. And that doesn't depend really on the tech. What really depends on the tech is how it's done. So there's plenty of things that you can do and preempt to even select your AI. I've seen an implementation that I think that was very impressive is actually one where they are actually regularly changing the AI engine they're using to optimize their cost and output. And the way they can engineer the shifting out of one model to another or one vendor to another is by having an automated tested framework to verify that they can get the outcome they want. I thought that's actually one of the smartest investments I've seen in that domain recently.
Yeah. Look, let's dive in a little bit, if we can, into some of the more technical aspects, and I'm going to dork out a little bit here, if that's okay. But if we look at even quite recently, so let's say 9 months ago, something like that, where you had pretty strong adoption of commoditized models. So OpenAI's model, for example, and even Gemini. I think Gemini Release 2 was quite strong. People were picking that up, and they were looking at fine tuning, which was a way of approaching some of the domain problems and some of the other hallucination problems and other things. Fine tuning was very popular, and then we realized it's expensive and difficult and didn't really solve the problems. And so people moved to things augmentation. We moved to RAG, which is a great paradigm, still used now, very, very strong. And then RAG, it has its problems as well. You've started to see some incursion from things like graph databases, so GraphRag and other things. But more recently, things like LoRa, which is low-ranked adapters and other sorts of techniques. Now, where I'm going with this, you have to don't know too much about the details of the technology. All you need to know is all this has happened in the space of about 6 months. So I guess the point I'm making here is these are fundamental changes to the way that you are going to try and solve these problems and the way that you're going to try and use these commoditized solutions in a business context. And as such, it sort of, it flies in the face of a roadmap approach, because, number one thing is you're going to have to go back to your stakeholders and say, oops, we made a mistake. We need to change direction again. And that will certainly erode a lot of confidence from the stakeholders, if nothing else.
I'm a big, sorry.
So just a question on my lips, following on from all of that, right? Is it if everything's changing so fast and the things we implement now are going to be, redundant in 6 months' time, what are the capabilities that we're advising people to invest in, versus the wait fors. To kind of, there's a comment in there from Frank Osimo about getting the foundations right and being prepared to shift. Like what are the foundations?
Yeah, so I don't want to take over the whole conversation, but look, to me, the foundations are things like how quickly you can move as an organization. So, for example, a lot of larger organizations, which I've dealt with, they're very slow to procure things. So, get procurement on side, right? Get some rules in place that allow you to do a fast track procurement. Something that's not going to go through some competitive tender and take 6 months with an RFP to the whole market. Something fast track that you can get in place. Get security on side, right? So you can ring fence the space within which you're going to work. You can either bring in some, COTS-based package very quickly, or you can use APIs, with a cloud-based solution. You can integrate very, very quickly. Get sanitized, representative, anonymized data ready in place, so when something comes along, you can test it really quickly and safely. Get legal to sort of sign off on their little bit. All of these things you can get in place ahead of time, so that when you need to pull the trigger on a particular solution, you can. And more importantly, when it's not working for you anymore, you can just get rid of it and move on to the next thing. It's really sort of walking the agile talk in many ways, but specific to AI.
You go, John.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm a big fan of adaptive planning. I've been always fascinated how company set up an agenda and how can our executive leadership can set the tone that it's like written, the world is changing, everything's changing, but no, we need certainty. Now, to me, this is another really good moment to say, well, if the business serves bad AI, it's about doing adaptive planning. And I think in such way, what we advise is to get it back to the basics, and you just be able to move. So there's a comment around 2 speeds. Yeah, it's a 2-speed thing. It's just another version of it. But I'm not sure if those of you were done by model, after a certain time, the new speedy model tend to slow down like a snail, because it's slowed down by the organization. There's definitely a new set of consideration to try that again, and I would charge on that. And the last thing I would add into that is I think AI, when you talk about planning and certainty, AI is a bit of the Bitcoin of IT. If you're putting your Bitcoins, you're going to get risk. So if you want certainty, don't use the Bitcoins. You won't get the result. You get your 7%, not your 37. It's all right. That's because it's different. So, and it's okay to have a small portion of your investment that's highly volatile. I think that's okay. It's just got to be understood. It's not like variety.
The thing I'm hearing in this conversation is that actually, firstly, got to go slow to go fast. And you kind of get those foundations in, but also if for our clients for people who haven't, organizations who don't have agile, like lowercase a agile ways of working yet, and don't have agile businesses, then adopting AI is going to be even more of a challenge. And this is now actually about becoming agile and AI augmented at the same time for those organizations. And I think that's where it comes into this concept of where if we get out of our heads the idea of a static roadmap, it's actually this thing about a dynamic roadmap. How can you create how can you move the organizations towards that rhythm, that cadence of dynamic roadmap update that the AI augments, and maybe even is AI going to run that roadmap for us, right?
And adapt to it and write the code and do all the testing, and we just
not in 2025
and take meetings.
2026 maybe.
Yeah, that's right.
Sure. Working on that.
Do webinars and talk about it. Look, I totally agree, David. I mean, those fundamental change aspects, they haven't gone away. Technology stresses them, shines a light on them. But the organizational change management isn't going to go away. This technology, presents some more challenges, and we need to continue to look at that change aspect and that disruptive aspect. But to my point, AI, maybe we don't call it an AI roadmap. Maybe call it a change roadmap, and we look at technology across the board, some of which might be AI. Maybe that's
and not just tech. It's the data, the business. I mean, I'm always stick back to the thing. If you tell me how I say, okay, what business you want to be in, I can tell you what service you're gonna need to deliver, and then what data you're gonna need to have to do that, and then we could work out what AI can do then. But it's kind of it's getting to that point of making it real. And again, because it's traversing the whole part of the organization, the risk you're going to run is the silo getting in your way. So we're back to Agile 101, strong leadership, risk-taking, breaking the silos, and having people able to just think the whole thing, and Tiger's team that deliver that. It's kind of
and when to pull the trigger. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Look, there's an example I wanted to bring up, which is the example of Klarna. Do you know Klarna? It's a great company. I'm not picking on Klarna, by the way, but I think they're a really good exemplar. They pulled the trigger very early last year, and essentially sacked their call center because they were the CEO was of the view that they could replace that entire call center with AIs. Now they pulled the trigger because it's magic. That's right, exactly. Now they pulled the trigger too early, and it turned out that it doesn't do what it says on the box, and there were more complicated things that they needed to deal with, and so they ended up having to hire back a few people. I think they're going to revisit that, as everybody is doing at the moment. But if it had delivered, and it will eventually deliver, it does represent a complete paradigm shift, because you've no longer got clients on hold. You're no longer talking at sort of non-scalable call center costs, overheads for your customer support and troubleshooting and other things. You're no longer dealing with that sort of non-scalability. You've got a trivially cheap resource that can scale infinitely and handle any number of customers and do so intelligently and immediately. So this is a paradigm shift. This is going to fundamentally change the whole notion of help desk and support. And I see that happening elsewhere as well. I think I picked on the last webinar, I picked on finance.
It's so sad that they didn't. Brian, it's so sad they didn't have an architect to show them that it's going to take a couple of years to get there before sacking everyone. But that's all right.
Or a chief AI officer, who could have pointed out some of the limitations there. And there is a little bit of Kool-Aid there. People hyping things up, particularly those who are selling these products, and that's part of our role. But I picked on finance last time, and I'll pick on them again. You look at your typical AP division within a finance department. They spend a lot of time doing things like invoice matching, reconciliation, a bunch of other things. These are all tasks that will be solved very, very soon by AIs, and reliably so. And then suddenly you're left, as I say, with not only a paradigm shift, but some serious questions about how you're going to structure that part of your organization. And this is happening everywhere. So, yeah, it's a disruptor.
Yeah.
There's Tom Barlow, in one of our principles, reminded me that roadmaps are often around capital planning and how to spend money. And what we're talking about is setting up, operational budgets for capabilities to support the pipeline, of both architecture and AI through this period of extreme change that we're going through, and we're going to be going through. There's kind of one point. I think another. Which is actually what we're doing with the other clients, which is looking at sort of domain strategies, kind of your point, Brian, around CRM and sale and call centers. Is like there are some use cases, we can start plan for change to domains based on, changes that are, new use cases that are coming out around CRM and sale, sales data, because often there's quite a lot of good sales data. And what that means for the architecture roadmaps, let alone the AI roadmaps.
And even in government, I've got a lot of customer in government, and there are so many cases where government agencies are faced with tremendous amount of data they cannot see through at human level, or cannot make sense of. Being central body, trying to control large swath of land or populations or transactions. So they absolutely game disruptor case, and they will come in eventually. So there's a couple of states that already moved pretty far in terms of having bodies to support AI and those things. But the reality of that is nobody can separate this use case and this technology from the business. So as you mentioned, this is again a case for be able to reconcile, and every time we can do that, we'll be successful. And I think it's a reminder of what keeps stable. The only thing we've got to deal is the Bitcoin phenomenon and the emotion with it, and be ready for some change, because I think it is so profound change that we know where it starts. But I feel like it's like in 1990s when internet started to be a thing, and people think, oh yeah, maybe we can sell some stuff online a bit on it, and we've yet to realize what it is.
Yeah, I have a very quick story that I'd like to share with everyone, if you don't mind. So I knew the system administrator of the machine called Minari at Melbourne University. And the reason Minari is very important is because it was the DNS for all of Australia at one time. This is many years ago. And he was extremely annoyed at the fact that when the .com TLD came online, so .com.au, he was suddenly having to do much more work creating all of these new domains in this particular space. And he signed over the administrator rights for .com.au to Melbourne IT, which then floated for $120 million on the back of that. And then suddenly, they were the DNS registrar, or one of the DNS registrars for all of .com for Australia. Yeah, that's how it happens, just like that.
Anyway, we're getting off track.
Yeah, we're off track.
Guys, I think
Sorry.
I think we're probably close to the last question, and I know that my internet probably lagging crazily. And it's funny, we're talking about AI, we're talking about some avatars running the live streams. We can't even get Wi-Fi right. Come on, like seriously. Maybe let's get the basic right. Before I can put my avatar on this live stream, maybe I need a good Wi-Fi connection. So something to think about. But before we start wrapping up, maybe if each of you just give us, a bit of a summary of what we talk about. So we talk about the roadmaps and if you need it or not. But where do we even begin? If you want to leave our audience with one takeaway from today's discussion, quick takeaway, not for half an hour, like a quick takeaway, what would be your top advice for everyone who's sort of thinking about implementing AI, thinking about roadmaps? So let's just summarize today's advice. And would you like to start?
Sure. So my key advice would be prepare for change. Just prepare for rapid and continuous change. So put in place the mechanisms that you need to put in place to make that happen. Don't prepare for a particular change, just prepare for change itself.
So look, what for me, I think the key things are about you need to understand this as a shift in capabilities in the organization, to Brian's point, and not just about technology capabilities, but also the ability for the organization to make agile decisions. And that's why this question about the roadmap is so important. It's about being able to make decisions quickly as the terrain changes.
If I had to add some complementary, is that because of the emotion it triggers, you've got to know, you've got to first think about what you yourself are with that. So, for example, I'm an AI pragmatist. It means that I've got a position I'm going to take, but some people will be AI optimists, some will be AI skepticist or whatever. Think about that. I think you need to be a bit optimist to drive the change. And I think also you need to create the coalition around you to work with you across the business. And the last thing I would say is fear is not going to help anyone, but being blindsided as well. So work on the emotion, work on the people, and that's going to be the way out. I've got one last example. I had put a couple of years ago AI in one of my strategies, and when the strategy roadshow was done with the people, people thought that AI was there to replace them, and they freaked out. We thought AI was there to help them. Yeah. How terrible! People first.
Yeah, taking people.
Let me just add another one, because I just realized that, being the fish swimming in the sea, you never see the sea. The thing that is also always going to be critical here is like doing the just enough architecture to kind of support these changes, doing the just enough strategy to kind of have people think through that, doing the just enough, alignment. So we know, we're all, the organizations align on what we're doing next. I think those fundamental things are still true. I'll shut up now.
Just give Jana 2 seconds to make sure that the message will come to me, because apparently, this is how long it takes for the Wi-Fi to get to Collins Street today. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight. I see quite a few amazing comments there. We'll make sure we also answer some of the comments offline and make sure to follow up. Thank you, Shiba, Chris, Epstein, to participation. And guys, as I said, we're trying to bring open conversation every month. Our next event is the first week of March. So obviously, stay tuned to get notified. Please join our meetup group as well. So we have a meetup groups for Australia, New Zealand, and UK. So it depends where you're watching us from. You can join group in your country. So we're definitely announcing all events there, and hopefully we'll have more face-to-face events coming up this year too. So you can follow us from here on LinkedIn and subscribe to our YouTube channel, depending on your preferred platform to consume information. So you can watch us on both platform, whatever is easy for you. And of course, if you're looking for exciting new opportunity in enterprise architecture or AI architecture, is it a thing? Yeah, so new job description, AI architect. Yeah. So feel free to connect and message me on LinkedIn. If LinkedIn messaging is not your thing, you can also reach us via email at talent@FromHereOn.com. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today again. I'm really looking forward to see you in March, and hopefully we'll bring another controversial topic. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Jana. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks Jana.
Thank you. Thanks for watching.